Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel The Python Gurukul. Today we'll be talking about REST API in Python. We will take very high level view of API, then we'll be talking about REST. We'll try to familiarize ourselves with URI, resources, their formatting, different operations, and the return codes. Then we'll explore around the Python request library. This library is going to provide the solution to use the REST. And there are few methods such as get, post, put, and delete. We'll explore them in detail. And at the end, we will do the demo of creating, reading, updating, and deleting the resource online live to the internet web page. Let's do the recap. So far, we have started from a scratch. We have gone so far. Already, these many videos have been created. So I'll highly encourage that. If you have missed any, go ahead and watch those videos. Let's come back to API. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. It's a contract between two applications where we decide that how the two applications will be talking to each other in terms of request and response. There are various different kind of API. Could be RPC, SOAP, REST, the one we'll be talking in detail, and the GPRC, which is getting popularity around the microservices. Let's do the deep dive around the REST. So REST is representational state transfer. It's kind of web service where the client will be sending the request in the form of operations such as post, get, put, or delete. Once the server request receives the request, it will try to explore them, and as per the request, it will take the action and return the response back to the client. And these response will be in the form of post, get, put, and delete. So today we'll be keep using these four terms again and again. Again, so what we do with the help of RESTful API, which are stateless, we will be creating the resources. And it is so simplified that it got a lot, a huge popularity. Let's talk about few operations. Let's start with the create. Create is just like a post resource. Read, it's a get resource. Update, maybe it could be put or pass. Delete, it's delete. That's how simplified it is. So someone only need to know that what they are going to do, what the verb they should be calling, and which resource they should be calling on. So we'll be exploring around the resource now. So resource could be a long URL with either some ID or maybe name. But we are just saying that we are talking about this particular server resource. We are going to this particular category, and then we want to talk about this particular resource. So that's how simplified it is. So in this communication, there are lots of data transaction will happen, client to server, server to client. So what data format we'll be using? We will be using by default JSON, but it provides various different other format as well. Let's do the last part, the response. So whenever we send the request to the server, we get the response back. If it is around 200, means it is successful operation. If it is around 400, oh, something wrong around the client side. If it is 500, something wrong at the server side. So these are very helpful for triaging purposes. With this code, we'll be having lots of details. What data we got, source, code, source, the tree structure, everything, which is very useful while debugging. So now we understand what API is. Now we already went through the rest. Now we'll be talking about the Python solution, which is in terms of a library, and that library name is requests. So as it is the library and it is not available with the default or standard installation of Python 3.x. If you want to understand how the package installation works, library installation works, how to control their version, how to update, then I'll highly encourage that to watch my video number 13, package installer for Python. There I have explained everything in detail, how to choose particular version of the library and how to do their life cycle. But to simplify here, we'll start with installing the request library. We'll run the command pip install request, and we have the request library available in the Python. The next thing which is required to use this library is once it has been installed, it is available to use, we'll be just saying import request. And now we have the request object. On this object, we can start performing operations such as get. While calling the get, we are passing some URLs. Simple it is. So here we saw that whenever we talk about the resource, we need to know the URL, their header, their body part, their return code, like what they will be returning. So all things will be retrieving from the documentation. So let's say today we'll be automating some process of GitHub. I choose the GitHub so that like if we are working in software side, we are for sure interacting with the GitHub. So we'll be using today the GitHub for our end-to-end code. So in this documentation, we are talking about a Git repository. Similarly, we have various different actions, and similarly, they will have their documentation page. From there, we can take a look at this is the URL. It is saying that run on this particular server. This is the path, and this is the endpoint. So with this information, we will be able to get the resources from this repo. So let's move further, and there we'll see that it while sending the request, also we need to send some header, and the header is accept and this particular data, some more information around the parameter. So these all information we will be getting from the documentation. Let's go back to our presentation again. So now we know that from where to grab the URL, from where to grab headers. In these headers, only one thing I have modified is authorization. We need the token, and I have just given the token as a GHP, and I'm hiding the token because if we know the token, we can access any one account. If you are creating or trying to use this, create your own token in the GitHub and use there. So talk about the payload. So any resource, whenever we are going to create, they will be having some body part. We need to find out from the documentation and construct these data in the form of JSON data. Resources separated by comma, key and value pair. Now let's go ahead and run our first program with get operation. Get stand for read existing resources. We have collected the header part, URL part, where we are trying to read on the this particular server. If you are running your own local GitHub, it could be the different. And then users repos. So this is our endpoint resource. We have imported the request library. We are calling the get method, passing two arguments. One is the URL, another is the headers. And we got the response back. Just printing the response. We can do anything we want with the response. Now we can talk about creating a new resource. Like maybe we want to create a new repo itself. So we grab the URL. And now we know the headers. In this one, the payload will be different. So we want to create new resource, the new repo. And I want to give the name of the new repo is Python REST. So we need to pass this particular information name and the value of the name. We are calling the post on top of the request request.post, we are passing three argument URL, headers, and the payload. This is the one we constructed, has the information about the name of the repo we are going to create. So now resource have been created. We want to go further. We want to update the resource. While updating, I want to create a file on the same repo. And this time we'll be adding content of the file, something like this. We want to give the comment a message, something like this. So these information constructed inside the payload. We got the endpoints URL and header as it is. We are calling the request.put with the URL, header, and the payload. So with this, we'll be able to update the resource with the creating the new file in the repos. We are done with our testing or development. We want to do the cleanup. So we want to delete the resource, the one we have created. So I created a resource repo name Python REST. This is my username. So this is the URL endpoint. On this particular path, this repo was created. We are going to delete that. So we are calling the delete operation, passing the URL, passing the header, and now the resource have been created. So we'll see everything in our example one by one. Let's take a look at here. So this is the documentation page. From there, we can go to the REST API and we can go to the any resource we are interested. Very similarly, if you are working on maybe another website, maybe another server, they will provide their REST data. And from there, we can go explore about how, how we need to construct their header, their payload, their param, and then we can come back and do the operation. So what I want to do here now, if you can see, this is the GitHub page. This is my user. This is my home page, and there we have some resources. We have created one code which is going to help us create new repo, read the repo, update the repo, and delete the repo. So everything end to end. While creating, we need to call the post. We'll be calling the post on this particular. Only things, some new things are here is I'm using the sys to just run one small utility to run this code until I want to exit from there. And the key, I'm hiding my token somewhere else than this file so that even I'm sharing this file, no one can see my token. And only the important part is importing the request, which will we keep using. So while creating the resource, we got the URL, we got the payload, the one we have seen in the example, and we created. Same thing for the read, URL response, call the. But one thing I have did differently and with the purpose that sometime on this response I'm calling the content, sometime I'm calling the JSON, sometime we'll be calling the return code, yeah, text, and then maybe the return status code. So that way I'm just showcasing that with the response we can uncover various different things. And this is my small utility which will be giving this UI. From this UI we can choose again and again and run the code. So let me hide this one, bring the command line here, run the program Python, and it is 23 something GitHub. So now we got the UI. If we choose one, it will be creating the resource, two, reading the resource, three, updating the resource, four, deleting the resource, five, exit from this utility, what we are creating. So this is again, it's my GitHub page. There, just look at this. So far, I have only 7 repos. Once I'll create one more repo, you will see that there will be one more repo. It will increase to 8. So let's do that. Okay. As soon as I choose the create, the repo got created and I just printed everything here. So you can see that When we get the response, we get all details, what even we can not see from here in the UI. So now it say that resource have been created. Let's check from here. I'm refreshing the page, and now we have 8 repos. What repo have been created? The repo have been created Python REST 21 seconds ago. Let's run the second operation and do the get. We did the get, and maybe we see a little bit. So it is just reading everything from this page and showcasing in the command line. Once we got this all information, we can think of the size is 84, URL, when it was created, what it has, what all the URL it has, everything. Now let's talk about creating the updating the resource, means calling the port operation. And before calling that, so let's go to the Python REST. Now we have the repo, but this repo does not have anything. It's empty. No file at all at this repo because it has been just created. With this update command, I'm going to create some file over here. Okay, we got the three, and I created one file with name Python REST API.txt. The file has been created. There is some content. The content is already there. Now refresh the page. Okay, as soon as we refresh the page, we are inside the Python REST repo, and in the repo now we see python rest.api.txt. This is the file I asked to create with the comment, a new commit message. 17 seconds ago, just now it has been created. So we know how to do the post, get, put, and finally we're now going to call the delete and delete this particular repo itself. So, and we'll call the for delete operation, and delete method will be called. So there I say that just return status code, and status code was 204. And remember, 200 something is something like request accepted, means the resource have been deleted. Check it out. Now I'm going to refresh this page, and there is no Python REST. So go back to the user page, and you can see that now we are back to repository 7, and there is no Python REST. So that's all I had for you. If you like my video, please share and subscribe. If you are interested in any of the code or slide what I'm sharing, you got to comment or reach me out. So once again, thank you all.